She thought buying a house would be her greatest achievement. Instead, it became the beginning of her downfall. When Melissa signed the mortgage papers, she felt proud, responsible, even. But just 2 years later, the bills, maintenance costs, and unexpected job loss pushed her to the edge. Was it the wrong choice from the start? Or was she never told the whole truth about what homeownership really means? Melissa had always dreamed of owning her own home, a cozy place where she could build a life and feel secure. After years of renting cramped apartments in Chicago, she finally gathered enough for a down payment and took the leap. Signing the mortgage papers felt like a milestone, a victory over uncertainty. But what she didn't realize was that this decision would soon become a heavy weight on her finances. Within months, unexpected repairs, rising property taxes, and a sudden job cutback turned her dream into a financial nightmare. She found herself juggling bills she hadn't anticipated, and the once proud homeowner began slipping into debt. Melissa's story is far from unique. According to recent studies by the U.S. Federal Reserve, nearly 40% of American homeowners are cost-burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on housing-related expenses, a key predictor of financial distress. In contrast, many renters face less monthly financial strain but often lack the long-term wealth-building benefits of ownership. The question then becomes, which choice truly safeguards financial health? For Melissa, the answer wasn't clear until she hit rock bottom. Financial experts warn that buying a home without a clear understanding of the full costs involved, including maintenance, taxes, and potential income loss, can rapidly accelerate the path to bankruptcy. On the other hand, renting can offer flexibility and less upfront risk but might delay wealth accumulation if not paired with smart saving and investing strategies. Melissa's challenge was compounded by a lack of financial literacy and planning. She hadn't calculated the emergency fund needed to absorb shocks like job loss or major repairs. The turning point for Melissa came when she sought help from a nonprofit financial counseling service. There, she learned to map her entire budget, separate essential housing costs from discretionary spending, and build a small safety net. One key strategy was refinancing her mortgage to lower monthly payments, freeing up cash to pay down other debts and rebuild savings. This method, supported by data from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, has helped thousands avoid foreclosure by improving monthly cash flow. Melissa's story illustrates a crucial lesson: owning a home is not just a purchase, it's a long-term financial commitment that requires ongoing management, education, and preparation for unexpected setbacks. Rent or own, the critical factor lies in understanding your personal financial limits, planning for emergencies, and making informed decisions rather than following societal expectations or emotional desires. For those facing similar dilemmas, the first step is honest self-assessment. Are housing costs eating up too much of your income? Do you have reserves for emergencies? Are you confident in your income stability? Answering these questions helps prevent costly mistakes. Melissa's journey from near bankruptcy to cautious stability shows that the choice between renting and owning is deeply personal, and that neither path guarantees success without discipline and knowledge. As the housing market fluctuates and economic uncertainties rise, more Americans face this critical decision. Whether renting or buying, understanding the full financial picture and preparing accordingly can make all the difference between a dream home and a financial disaster. Melissa's story is a wake-up call, and a beacon of hope for those navigating the tricky balance of shelter and solvency. Jason never thought he would see the day his bank account hit zero. For years, he had lived paycheck to paycheck, comfortable enough with his small apartment rental in Dallas, Texas. He wasn't a spender or reckless with credit cards, but unexpected expenses and slow income growth kept him on edge. One month, the heating broke during a harsh winter, and the repair cost wiped out his emergency fund. The following paycheck barely covered rent, leaving nothing for food or utilities. That's when the red flags started flashing, and Jason had no idea how close he was to financial ruin. Like Jason, millions of Americans are walking a tightrope, teetering on the edge of bankruptcy without even realizing it. According to the Federal Reserve's 2023 report, nearly 60% of U.S. adults say they would struggle to cover a $1,000 emergency expense, a statistic that reveals how fragile financial stability really is. But how do you know when you're truly in danger? Identifying the warning signs early can mean the difference between a temporary setback and long-term insolvency. Jason's story unfolds with a series of subtle but critical signals: missing bill payments, relying on credit cards for essentials, borrowing from friends, and skipping meals to save money. These are classic indicators financial counselors call the warning lights before bankruptcy. Research from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau supports this, showing that those who miss 2 or more monthly debt payments within a 6-month period are at much higher risk of default and foreclosure. Beyond individual behavior, broader economic factors often accelerate financial decline. In Jason's case, stagnant wages in the rental market meant his rent increased by 5% annually, outpacing his modest income raises. Meanwhile, inflation drove up grocery and utility bills, squeezing his budget even tighter. For many renters like Jason, the lack of a stable housing payment, such as a fixed mortgage, creates unpredictability, but also flexibility to relocate or downsize. Yet this flexibility only helps if one has enough savings or alternative housing options. Experts emphasize the importance of financial literacy and proactive budgeting to recognize these signs early. Jason's turning point came when he started using a budgeting app recommended by a friend, which helped him track expenses in real time. He discovered he was spending nearly 15% of his income on non-essential items, and cutting back there gave him some breathing room. However, he also realized that without increasing his income or finding cheaper housing, the cycle would continue. Jason's case also highlights the psychological toll of impending financial collapse. The stress and anxiety led to poor sleep and strained relationships with family, further complicating his ability to manage money effectively. Studies by the American Psychological Association confirm that financial stress is a leading cause of mental health issues, which in turn can reduce productivity and income potential, a vicious cycle. How then can someone like Jason pull back from the brink? First, creating a clear picture of monthly cash flow is essential. Track every expense, no matter how small, and categorize needs versus wants. This awareness helps identify where cuts can be made without sacrificing quality of life. Second, negotiating with landlords or creditors for payment plans can provide temporary relief. In some states, renter protections and emergency rental assistance programs exist but are underutilized due to lack of awareness. Third, seeking professional help early, whether from nonprofit credit counselors, financial advisors, or community resources, can provide tailored strategies and emotional support. Jason eventually connected with a local nonprofit, where counselors helped him develop a debt repayment plan and apply for rental assistance programs. These resources often go unnoticed but can be crucial lifelines. The lesson Jason's experience offers is clear: bankruptcy doesn't always come with a sudden crash, it often creeps in quietly, marked by small missed payments, growing stress, and shrinking savings. Recognizing the signs early, understanding personal financial limits, and reaching out for help can interrupt this downward spiral before it becomes irreversible. As the U.S. economy continues to face inflation pressures, rising housing costs, and job market uncertainties, more renters and homeowners alike must stay vigilant. For those navigating rent or ownership decisions, understanding not just the upfront costs but the ongoing financial signals is critical to avoid falling into the red zone. Jason's story is a cautionary tale but also a hopeful one. With education, planning, and support, those facing financial peril can regain control and build a path to stability, even when the odds feel overwhelming. Angela had always believed she was careful with money. As a single mother in Phoenix, Arizona, she worked 2 jobs to keep up with rent, childcare, and groceries. When she finally managed to save enough for a down payment on a modest house, it seemed like the solution to her financial struggles. But soon, the reality hit hard. Property taxes climbed, home repairs piled up, and her overtime hours dwindled as burnout set in. One day, her landlord-turned-mortgage lender knocked on her door with foreclosure papers. Angela was stunned. How could she, with steady income and budgeting, be facing bankruptcy? Angela's story highlights a critical question: what are the biggest causes of bankruptcy in the U.S., especially for people who thought they were doing everything right? According to the U.S. Bankruptcy court data and studies from the American Bankruptcy Institute, the top causes are medical expenses, job loss, unsecured debt, and poor financial literacy. While the reasons vary, underlying patterns emerge: lack of savings, unexpected expenses, and systemic financial pressures. Medical debt tops the list, responsible for nearly 66% of bankruptcies as reported in a landmark 2020 Harvard study. Even insured families face skyrocketing co-pays, deductibles, and lost income during illness. Angela recalls how a brief hospitalization for her child triggered a chain of unpaid bills that she couldn't keep up with, despite working overtime. This financial strain slowly eroded her ability to meet mortgage payments, illustrating how health crises disproportionately affect homeowners. Job loss is another devastating factor. When Angela's second job hours were cut due to company downsizing, her income dropped by nearly 30%. A 2023 report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics confirms that sudden income loss remains one of the fastest routes to bankruptcy. Renters like Jason face this risk too, but homeowners carry higher fixed costs, mortgage, insurance, taxes, that don't pause with lost income, pushing many into foreclosure. Unsecured debts, including credit cards and personal loans, often spiral out of control during these crises. Angela had relied on credit cards to cover shortfalls, but escalating interest rates transformed manageable balances into overwhelming debt. The Federal Reserve notes that average credit card debt in the U.S. hit $6,500 in 2024, with delinquency rates rising sharply. Without a solid repayment strategy, this debt snowballs, undermining financial recovery efforts. Poor financial literacy compounds the problem. Angela, like many, wasn't aware of programs that could have eased her burden. Loan forbearance, mortgage refinancing options, or state-based assistance programs. Surveys from the National Financial Educators Council reveal that nearly 60% of Americans rate their financial knowledge as poor, leading to missed opportunities and costly mistakes. Experts emphasize that no single cause acts alone; these factors often overlap, creating a perfect storm. Angela's case shows how medical debt, job loss, and credit card reliance intertwined, pushing her to the brink of bankruptcy despite her hard work. Financial advisors stress the importance of proactive education and planning, building emergency funds, understanding debt management, and seeking professional advice early. One proven strategy Angela learned later was the debt snowball method, paying off the smallest debts first to build momentum. Combined with refinancing her mortgage at a lower rate and negotiating with creditors, she slowly regained control. Data from the National Foundation for Credit Counseling indicates that individuals using structured repayment plans have a 70% higher success rate in debt reduction. Angela's experience also reveals systemic gaps. While individuals must manage their finances wisely, the rising costs of healthcare, housing, and living expenses demand broader policy attention. Advocates call for expanded financial education in schools, improved access to affordable housing, and safety nets for sudden income loss to prevent similar bankruptcies. This chapter's lesson is clear: understanding the root causes of bankruptcy can empower individuals to recognize vulnerabilities before it's too late. Whether renting or owning, financial resilience requires awareness of risks, disciplined money management, and timely use of available resources. As Angela's story demonstrates, even those who seem responsible and hardworking can face unexpected crises. The difference lies in preparation, knowledge, and the willingness to seek help, turning near collapse into a chance for recovery and long-term stability. Marissa had always prided herself on being financially savvy. Growing up in a middle-class family in Seattle, Washington, she learned early about saving and budgeting. But when she landed her first apartment in a bustling neighborhood, the temptation to keep up with friends' lifestyles led her astray. Monthly dinners out, subscriptions she barely used, and spontaneous shopping added up. Soon, her credit cards were maxed out, and despite a good salary, Marissa found herself drowning in debt. She wondered, how could someone with a steady job and financial knowledge still fall into such a trap? Marissa's experience reflects a common truth: financial education is vital, but even those who know better can make costly mistakes if they don't maintain discipline and keep learning. According to the FINRA Investor Education Foundation, only 34% of Americans could correctly answer questions about basic financial concepts such as interest rates and inflation. This gap leaves many vulnerable to poor money decisions, contributing to a cycle of debt and near bankruptcy. One of the biggest pitfalls Marissa faced was underestimating the long-term impact of small, repeated expenses. The latte factor, spending on small daily luxuries, might seem insignificant but can drain hundreds or thousands annually. Research by the Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection shows that cutting back on these habits can free up as much as 20% of disposable income, funds that could be redirected to savings or debt repayment. Moreover, Marissa had overlooked the importance of an emergency fund. Without it, any unexpected bill, car repair, medical expense, or job loss, would force her to rely on credit cards or loans, pushing her closer to financial crisis. The Federal Reserve's 2023 survey of household economics reports that nearly 40% of U.S. adults have no savings to cover 3 months of living expenses, highlighting a nationwide vulnerability. Financial advisors recommend building an emergency fund equal to 3 to 6 months of essential expenses as a safety net. Marissa started small, setting aside a fixed amount from each paycheck into a high-yield savings account. This habit, combined with strict budgeting using apps that track spending in real time, gave her a clearer picture of where her money was going and where she could cut back. Another critical mistake Marissa made was ignoring debt interest rates. Credit cards and payday loans often carry rates exceeding 20%, creating a fast-moving debt trap. Marissa's turning point came when a financial counselor helped her consolidate high-interest debts into a lower-interest personal loan. This move reduced her monthly payments and gave her a clear timeline for becoming debt-free. Education also means knowing when to say no to lifestyle inflation, impulsive buys, and even social pressure. Marissa learned to set boundaries, communicate openly with friends about her financial goals, and find low-cost ways to enjoy life. This mindset shift, supported by behavioral finance studies, is key to long-term financial health. Importantly, Marissa embraced ongoing learning. She attended free workshops, read personal finance books, and followed trusted online resources. Financial literacy isn't a one-time achievement but a lifelong journey, evolving with changing circumstances and economic conditions. This chapter underscores a vital lesson: education alone isn't enough without consistent application and self-awareness. Mistakes will happen, but recognizing them early and adapting can prevent small errors from escalating into financial disasters. For those renting or owning, the principles remain the same: understand your cash flow, plan for emergencies, prioritize high-interest debts, and invest in continuous learning. These steps build resilience against unexpected shocks and lay the foundation for lasting financial security. Marissa's story is a reminder that even those who believe they are prepared must remain vigilant and proactive. With knowledge, discipline, and the right strategies, it's possible to turn financial challenges into opportunities for growth. David's story is a familiar one in the sprawling suburbs of Dallas, Texas. After years of living paycheck to paycheck, he realized that relying solely on his 9-to-5 job as a customer service representative wasn't enough to build the financial security he dreamed of. With a mortgage looming and 2 kids to support, David knew he had to find a way to increase his income. The question was, how? Like many Americans, David faced the challenge of balancing time, energy, and risk when exploring side hustles or investments. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, nearly 45% of Americans have a secondary source of income, and this trend has only accelerated since the pandemic. Supplementing income has become essential not just for comfort, but for survival. David started by tapping into his passion for woodworking, turning it into a small side business crafting custom furniture. This extra income helped cover unexpected expenses and reduce the pressure on his primary paycheck. His story mirrors countless others who found that diversifying income streams can be a game changer in avoiding financial collapse. Beyond side businesses, the world of investments offers another path, but it requires knowledge and caution. The stock market, real estate, and retirement accounts like 401(k)s or IRAs are tools that, if used wisely, can grow wealth steadily. However, financial advisors warn that many beginners rush into risky ventures without proper research, leading to costly mistakes. For David, education was key. He attended community workshops, used online platforms to learn about investing basics, and consulted with a certified financial planner. He discovered that starting small with low-cost index funds and contributing regularly was a sustainable way to build wealth over time. Data from the Investment Company Institute shows that average annual returns on diversified stock portfolios have historically ranged between 7 to 10%, beating inflation and savings accounts by a wide margin. David also explored employer-sponsored benefits like stock purchase plans and matching contributions to retirement accounts. Taking full advantage of these programs maximized his earning potential and tax advantages, creating a safety net for the future. On the flip side, he learned to avoid get-rich-quick schemes that prey on hopeful investors. Scams and high-risk bets can wipe out savings overnight, pushing people deeper into financial trouble. The Federal Trade Commission reports that investment fraud cases surged by 40% over the past 5 years, emphasizing the need for vigilance. For renters struggling with tight budgets, side hustles or passive income sources such as renting out a room, freelance work, or online selling can make a significant difference. Homeowners, meanwhile, can consider leveraging home equity through refinancing or rental properties, but only with careful planning to avoid overextending themselves. David's journey wasn't without setbacks. Balancing work, family, and new ventures required sacrifices, late nights, and occasional disappointments. But his persistence paid off. Over 3 years, his additional income and smart investment steadily reduced his debt and increased his savings, giving him breathing room and hope. This chapter's core takeaway is clear: building multiple income streams and making informed investment choices are powerful strategies for financial recovery and growth. They offer protection against job loss, inflation, and unexpected expenses, turning vulnerability into opportunity. David's story encourages everyone, whether renting or owning, to explore ways to enhance income without risking financial stability. With education, patience, and discipline, it's possible to create a more secure and prosperous future. After years of battling financial uncertainty, Alicia sat quietly in her modest living room in Phoenix, Arizona, reflecting on her journey toward financial stability. She remembered the nights when rent deadlines loomed like dark clouds, and the fear of losing her home was a constant shadow. But today, she felt a cautious optimism. The lessons she learned about budgeting, saving, and planning for the future had transformed her outlook. Alicia's story is a testament to the power of building a sustainable financial foundation, one that could weather storms and provide peace of mind. Alicia's path wasn't easy. Like millions of Americans, she faced fluctuating income, medical bills, and family emergencies that tested her resolve. According to a 2023 survey by the Federal Reserve, 37% of U.S. adults said they wouldn't be able to cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing or selling something. Alicia had been part of that statistic. But she chose to change her narrative. One of the most critical steps Alicia took was creating a realistic, adaptable budget that prioritized essentials and allocated funds toward an emergency fund. The discipline required was challenging, especially when unexpected expenses arose, but over time, her savings grew. Studies show that households with an emergency fund covering 3 to 6 months of expenses have significantly lower rates of bankruptcy and financial distress. In addition, Alicia embraced financial tools that helped maintain her progress. Apps that track spending, alert for upcoming bills, and provide visual summaries became her allies. She also set up automatic transfers to her savings account to ensure consistency, a strategy experts say reduces the temptation to skip savings. But sustainable financial security is about more than just budgeting. Alicia invested time in understanding credit scores, improving hers from the high 500s to the mid 700s. A better credit score opened doors to lower interest rates on loans and credit cards, saving her thousands over time. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau reports that a 100-point increase in credit score can save an average borrower $2,000 or more in interest over a lifetime. Alicia also planned for the long term by contributing to her employer's 401k plan, taking advantage of matching contributions to boost her retirement savings. While retirement may seem distant when daily finances are tight, experts emphasize that even small, consistent contributions can compound into significant wealth over decades. Moreover, Alicia sought to build financial resilience by diversifying income streams. She took on freelance graphic design projects and sold handmade crafts online, echoing a growing trend where many Americans create multiple income avenues to buffer against economic shocks. Finally, Alicia's story highlights the importance of mindset and community support. She joined local financial literacy groups, sharing her struggles and learning from others. The emotional boost from feeling understood and motivated was as vital as the practical advice. The journey to financial security, whether renting or owning, is ongoing and requires adaptability, education, and persistence. Alicia's experience shows that setbacks do not have to define one's future. With deliberate actions and steady habits, it's possible to build a stable financial life that endures. This final chapter reinforces a hopeful message: long-term financial health isn't a matter of luck but of planning, learning, and consistent effort. The right strategies, combined with resilience, can help anyone avoid the pitfalls of bankruptcy and create a future marked by confidence and security.